Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, watching the stars through the main viewport. The ship had been exploring the outer edge of human space for 3 months now. They were looking for new planets and resources, just like dozens of other human ships scattered across this part of the galaxy. "Admiral, we're picking up something strange on the long-range scanners," said Lieutenant Ben Carter from his station. The young officer looked nervous as he stared at his screen. Jake walked over to look at the readings. "What kind of strange?" "Multiple contacts, sir. Big ones. They're moving in formation and heading straight for us." Jake felt his stomach tighten. Human ships rarely traveled in large groups out here. "How many contacts?" 15 ships, sir. Maybe more. They're still too far away to get a clear count." Captain Lisa Baker, the ship's chief engineer, looked up from her workstation. "Admiral, those energy signatures don't match any human vessels in our database. Whatever they are, they're not ours." The bridge fell silent except for the steady hum of the ship's engines. Jake had always known this day might come. Humanity had been expanding into space for over a century now, and they had always wondered if they would meet other intelligent species out here. "Red alert," Jake ordered. "All hands to battle stations. Raise shields and power up the weapons." The ship's alarm began to sound throughout the corridors. Jake could hear the crew running to their positions as the Defiance prepared for whatever was coming their way. "Admiral, they're hailing us," reported Communications Officer Amy Rodriguez. "Put them through." The main screen flickered and changed. Instead of stars, Jake now saw the interior of an alien bridge. The being looking back at him was tall and thin, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer like crystal. Its eyes were large and silver, and when it spoke, its voice had a strange musical quality. "I am Supreme Admiral Keffer of the Zephyrian Empire," the alien said. "You are trespassing in territory claimed by our empire. Surrender your vessel immediately." Jake stepped forward. "I'm Admiral Jake Morrison of the United Earth Fleet. We're on a peaceful exploration mission. We didn't know this area was claimed by anyone." The alien's mouth curved in what might have been a smile, but it wasn't friendly. "Your ignorance is not our concern, human. You will surrender your ship and submit to Imperial authority. Resistance will result in your destruction." "We're not looking for trouble," Jake said. "But we won't surrender our ship. Perhaps we can discuss this situation like civilized beings." Admiral Keffer made a sound that might have been laughter. "Civilized? You primitive mammals think you can negotiate with the Zephyrian Empire? Very well. We will allow you to demonstrate your pathetic technology so that you may understand how hopeless your situation is." The screen went dark for a moment, then showed the space around the Defiance. Jake gasped. The alien fleet was massive. 15 ships, each one easily twice the size of the Defiance. They moved through space with an elegant grace that human ships could never match. Their hulls seemed to be made of the same crystalline material as their commander's skin, and they glowed with internal light. Impressive, isn't it? Admiral Keffer appeared on screen again. "Each of our vessels is powered by quantum energy cores. Our weapons can tear holes in space itself. Our shields can phase shift to avoid any attack. We have conquered 200 star systems with this technology." Jake looked at Captain Baker. She nodded slightly. They had talked about this possibility during their long journey. "Would you like to see our technology?" Jake asked the alien admiral. "By all means. Amuse us with your primitive weapons." Jake turned to his weapons officer. "Lieutenant Rodriguez, target that asteroid field to our port side. Fire all railguns." The Defiance's 6 railgun turrets swiveled toward the distant asteroids. With a sound like thunder, they began firing. Solid metal slugs, each one weighing several tons, shot out at incredible speed. The asteroids exploded in brilliant flashes as the kinetic projectiles tore through them. "Kinetic weapons?" Admiral Keffer sounded surprised. "You still use solid projectiles? How wonderfully primitive." "Show them the nuclear missiles," Jake said. Lisa Baker activated the missile system. 6 nuclear-tipped rockets launched from the Defiance's hull, streaking toward another group of asteroids. The explosions were visible even from their great distance, turning the rocky debris into glowing clouds of plasma. Nuclear fission? The alien admiral was clearly amused now. We abandoned such crude energy sources thousands of years ago. What's next? Are you going to show us your steam engines? Jake felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his voice calm. Our shields use electromagnetic field generators. They can deflect energy weapons and some projectiles. Electromagnetic fields? Admiral. Keffer was laughing now. Our children's toys are more sophisticated than your shields. Watch this. One of the alien ships fired a beam of purple energy at a large asteroid. The rock simply disappeared, leaving not even dust behind. The beam had somehow erased it from existence. Quantum dissolution rays, the alien commander explained. They disrupt matter at the subatomic level. Your electromagnetic shields will be about as effective as tissue paper against them. Another alien ship seemed to flicker and then pass right through a massive asteroid as if it weren't there. The rock remained completely undamaged. Phase shift. Technology, Admiral Keffer said proudly. We can make our ships exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Your solid projectiles would pass harmlessly through us. Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was trying to stay calm, but he could see the fear in their eyes. These aliens had technology that was centuries ahead of anything humanity had developed. Very entertaining, Admiral Keffer continued. Your weapons might have been impressive 10,000 years ago, but now they are relics of a less evolved species. I will give you one of your solar cycles to contact your leaders and arrange for surrender. When we return, we expect full cooperation. And if we refuse? Jake asked. Then we will demonstrate what happens when primitive technology meets advanced civilization. Your species will learn to serve the Zephyrian Empire, one way or another. The alien ships began to move away, their crystalline hulls glowing brighter. As they accelerated, in moments, they had vanished into the darkness of space. Leaving the Defiance alone among the scattered remains of the asteroids, Jake stood in the silence of his bridge, watching the empty space where the alien fleet had been. His crew waited for orders, but for a long moment, he had none to give. Set course for Earth, he finally said. Maximum speed, and send a priority message to Fleet Command. Tell them we've made first contact, and it didn't go well. As the Defiance turned toward home, Jake thought about Admiral Keffer's words. The alien had called human technology primitive and outdated. He had laughed at their weapons and shields. But Jake had been in the military long enough to know that sometimes the old ways worked better than anyone expected. The aliens had impressive technology, but they were also arrogant. They had dismissed human capabilities without truly understanding them. Jake wondered if that might be a mistake they would come to regret. The long journey home would give him time to think, time to plan, and time to hope that humanity's primitive technology might have a few surprises that the Zephyrian Empire wasn't expecting. The emergency meeting room in the Pentagon was packed with the most important people in human space defense. Fleet Admiral Nick Collins sat at the head of the long table, his weathered face showing the strain of the past 18 hours. Around him sat President Kate Sullivan, General Ryan Taylor, and a dozen other high-ranking officials who had been called in after Admiral Morrison's message arrived from the Outer Rim. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, President Sullivan sighed, looking at the holographic display that showed the encounter between the Defiance and the alien fleet. These Zephyrians have technology that can make their ships pass through solid matter, weapons that can delete things from existence, and they control 200 star systems? That's correct, Madam President, Admiral Collins replied. According to Admiral Morrison's report, their technology is far beyond anything we've developed. Their ships are larger, faster, and more powerful than our best vessels. General Taylor leaned forward. How much time do we have? The alien commander gave us one solar cycle. That's about 24 hours from now. 24 hours to surrender. Our entire species, the president said quietly. And if we refuse, they'll come back with their full fleet and conquer us by force. The room fell silent. Everyone stared at the tactical display showing human space. Earth sat at the center, surrounded by dozens of colonies and outposts. It looked very small compared to the vast territory controlled by the Zephyrian Empire. What are our options? President Sullivan asked. Admiral Collins activated another display. We have approximately 800 ships in the entire human fleet. Most of them are exploration vessels or cargo haulers. We have maybe 200 actual warships, and none of them are designed to fight enemies with this level of technology. So you're saying we can't win? Madam President, I'm saying that in a conventional battle, we would lose badly. Their weapons can destroy matter at the atomic level. Their ships can become intangible. Our railguns and missiles wouldn't even touch them. Dr. Amy Foster had been sitting quietly at the far end of the table, but now she cleared her throat. If I may, Admiral Collins, I think you're looking at this the wrong way. All eyes turned to her. Dr. Foster was the head of the Human Defense Initiative, a secretive research program that most people in the room knew very little about. Dr. Foster, the president said, do you have something to add? Amy stood up and walked to the holographic display. I've been studying the footage from the Defiance encounter. These aliens are incredibly advanced, but they're also incredibly arrogant. How does that help us? General Taylor asked. They showed off their technology because they wanted to intimidate us. But in doing so, they revealed their weaknesses. Admiral Collins frowned. What weaknesses? They can phase through matter and dissolve asteroids with energy beams. Exactly, Amy said with a small smile. Their technology is elegant, efficient, and sophisticated. It's also predictable. She manipulated the display to show the alien ships in action. Look at how they move. Perfect formations, coordinated attacks, everything planned and precise. They've been fighting primitive enemies for so long that they've forgotten how to deal with chaos. I don't understand, the president said. Human technology isn't elegant, Amy explained. It's messy, redundant, and unpredictable. We build things that work even when they're broken. We use brute force instead of finesse. That's exactly what these aliens aren't prepared for. Colonel Steve Parker, who had been quiet until now, spoke. Dr. Foster, are you talking about the Blackwater Project? Amy nodded. Among other things, yes. What's the Blackwater Project? President Sullivan demanded. Dr. Foster looked around the room. For the past 15 years, we've been developing what we call chaos warfare systems. Technology that's designed to be unpredictable, unreliable, and completely insane by normal standards. She activated a new display showing strange-looking weapons and ships. While everyone else was trying to make our technology more efficient, we were making it more chaotic. Ships that can function with 70% of their systems destroyed. Weapons that become more dangerous when they're damaged. AI systems that think like drunken humans instead of logical computers. General Taylor stared at the display. Why would you want unreliable technology? Because reliable technology is predictable, Amy said. And predictable technology can be countered. But chaos is impossible to plan for. Commander Beth Williams, who worked with Dr. Foster's team, stood up. We've been testing these systems for years. The results are interesting. Show them the scattershot demonstration, Amy said. Beth activated a video showing a human ship in a simulated battle. The ship was taking heavy damage, with explosions all over its hull. But instead of being destroyed, it seemed to get more dangerous as it took damage. This is the prototype Chaos Fighter, Beth explained. When it gets hit, damaged systems start working in new ways. A broken engine might become a makeshift weapon. A damaged shield generator might start jamming enemy sensors, The ship literally becomes more unpredictable as it takes damage. That's insane, Admiral Collins said. Exactly, Amy replied. And that's why it works. Our test runs show that conventional AI systems can't predict or counter chaos-based attacks. The more logical the enemy, the more confused they become. President. Sullivan looked thoughtful. You're saying we should fight sophisticated aliens with deliberately broken technology? I'm saying we should fight them with technology they can't understand or predict, Amy corrected. Technology that doesn't make sense even to us. Captain Tony Blake, who had been listening from the back of the room, stepped forward. Dr. Foster. What about the Silent Thunder Project? Ah, yes, Amy said, activating another display. Captain Blake commands our stealth ship prototype. Tony, tell them about your vessel. Tony moved to the display. The Silent Thunder uses what we call dumb stealth technology. Instead of sophisticated cloaking devices, we use primitive systems that are so simple they don't register on advanced sensors. How does that work? General Taylor asked. Most alien sensors are designed to detect energy signatures, quantum fields, and advanced materials, Tony explained. Our ship is built with steel and aluminum, powered by chemical rockets and controlled by mechanical computers. To their sensors, we look like space junk. You're invisible because you're primitive? The president asked. Exactly. Their quantum sensors can detect a grain of sand in deep space, but they can't see a ship that's not using quantum technology. Dr. Foster returned to the main display. The Zephyrians have been conquering advanced civilizations for centuries. They know how to fight energy weapons, quantum shields, and sophisticated AI systems. But they've probably never faced an enemy that uses chemically powered rockets and mechanical computers. So our plan is to fight them with Stone Age technology? Admiral Collins sounded skeptical. Not Stone Age, Amy corrected. Deliberately primitive. There's a difference. We're not going backward in technology. We're going sideways. She showed them more displays of the various chaos warfare systems. Ships that looked like they were held together with duct tape and prayer, but were actually incredibly sophisticated in their unpredictability. Weapons that fired random projectiles at random intervals. Defense systems that worked by pure chance. The beauty of chaos warfare, Amy continued, is that it's not just unpredictable to the enemy. It's unpredictable to us, too. We can't predict exactly how our systems will behave, which means neither can they. President Sullivan stood up. Dr. Foster, how quickly can you deploy these systems? We have several prototypes ready now. Give us 12 hours, and we can have a small fleet equipped with chaos warfare technology. And you really think this will work against the Zephyrians? Amy smiled. Madam President, they're expecting us to fight them with primitive but logical technology. Instead, we're going to fight them with primitive and completely illogical technology. They'll spend so much time trying to understand our tactics that they won't have time to use their superior firepower. The room was quiet for a long moment. Then President Sullivan made her decision. Do it, she said. Dr. Foster, you have full authority to deploy whatever systems you think will work. Admiral Collins, coordinate with her team. General Taylor, prepare our conventional forces as backup. And if this doesn't work? Admiral Collins asked. Then we'll go down fighting, the president replied. But at least we'll go down in a way that nobody expects. As the meeting broke up, Amy Foster felt a mixture of excitement and terror. She had spent years developing chaos warfare systems, but she had never expected to use them against an enemy this advanced. Tomorrow, humanity would find out if deliberately broken technology could defeat the most sophisticated fleet in the galaxy. Battle Prince Zorthik stood on the command deck of his massive flagship, the Eternal Conquest. The ship was 3 kilometers long and shaped like a crystal spear, its hull glowing with the soft blue light of quantum energy. Around him, the largest war fleet in Zephyrian history moved through space toward human territory. 500 ships made up the invasion force. Dreadnoughts that could crack planets in half, cruisers that moved like living shadows, and fighter swarms that danced through space like schools of luminous fish. It was the most beautiful and deadly fleet ever assembled, and it was heading toward the primitive human worlds with absolute confidence. "My prince," said Commander Veltar, his second in command, "we are approaching the outer edge of human space. Shall we begin the demonstration?" Zorthik smiled, showing teeth that gleamed like polished silver. "Yes, let us show these mammals what happens when they refuse the generous offer of the Zephyrian Empire." The first target was a small human mining station orbiting a dead planet. The station was nothing special, just a collection of metal cylinders and solar panels where humans extracted minerals from the planet's surface. A few hundred people lived and worked there, completely unaware that their world was about to change forever. "Use the dissolution rays," Zorthik ordered. "Make it clean." One of the cruisers fired a beam of purple energy at the mining station. The entire structure simply vanished, leaving nothing but empty space where it had been moments before. The beam had broken down every atom in the station, turning metal, air, and people into nothing at all. "Excellent," the Battle Prince said. "Now send the message to all human colonies." Across human space, every communication system suddenly activated. Television screens, radio broadcasts, computer networks, and even personal devices all showed the same image. Battle Prince Zorthek, standing on his command deck, surrounded by the crystalline beauty of his ship. "People of Earth," he began, his voice carrying the musical quality of his species. "I am Battle Prince Zorthek of the Zephyrian Empire. Your leaders have foolishly chosen to resist our generous offer of incorporation into our empire." The image shifted to show the Zephyrian fleet moving through space. Ship after ship appeared on the screen, each one a masterpiece of alien engineering. They moved in perfect formation, their hulls glowing with internal light, their weapons charging with barely contained energy. "You have just witnessed the fate of those who oppose us," Zorthek continued. "Your mining station at Kepler 442 no longer exists. It was not destroyed. It was erased from reality itself. This is the power of advanced civilization." On Earth, people watched in horror as the alien fleet continued its advance. The ships were beautiful, but their beauty was terrifying. They moved with the grace of predators, and their weapons could unmake matter itself. "We offer you one final opportunity," the Battle Prince said. "Surrender now, and you will be allowed to live as servants of the Empire. Your primitive technology will be replaced with our advanced systems. Your chaotic society will be brought into the order of Zephyrian civilization." The image changed again, showing human ships from the earlier encounter. The railguns, nuclear missiles, and electromagnetic shields look crude and ancient compared to the sleek alien technology. "Your weapons are relics of a less evolved species," Zorthik continued. "Your ships are barely capable of interstellar travel. Your defenses are no match for our quantum dissolution rays and phase shift technology. Resistance is not just futile, it is impossible." Captain Dan Mitchell watched the broadcast from the bridge of his research vessel, Earth's Pride. His ship was hidden in the shadow of a large asteroid, observing the alien fleet as it moved through human space. Dan had been a military intelligence officer before becoming a researcher, and he was using those skills now to study the enemy. "Captain," said his science officer, Lieutenant Carol Adams, "I'm picking up detailed scans of their ship formations. They're moving in a very specific pattern." Dan looked at the tactical display. The Zephyrian fleet was advancing in a perfect geometric arrangement, with larger ships at the center and smaller ones forming protective patterns around them. It was beautiful to watch, like a deadly dance performed by masters. "They're not just showing off," Dan realized. "They're following a battle doctrine. Look at how they position their ships. Each one has a specific role, and they never break." "Formation. Is that good or bad for us?" Carol asked. "It's predictable," Dan said. "They've done this so many times that it's become an art form. But art follows rules, and rules can be broken." Meanwhile, on the alien flagship, Battle Prince? Zorthik was enjoying himself. The humans were primitive, but they were also entertaining. Their crude technology reminded him of the early civilizations his people had conquered centuries ago. "My prince," Commander Veltar reported, "we are receiving communications from several human colonies. They are requesting terms of surrender." "Excellent," Zorthik replied. "What about their military forces?" "Long-range sensors show human ships gathering near their homeworld. Approximately 200 vessels, mostly small cruisers and destroyers. They appear to be preparing for a final battle." The Battle Prince laughed, a sound like crystal chimes in the wind. "How wonderfully primitive! They think they can make a heroic last stand like something from their ancient mythology. Shall we bypass their fleet and attack their homeworld?" "Directly?" Veltar asked. "No," Zortik said. "Let them have their moment of glory. We will crush their fleet in front of their homeworld so that everyone can see the futility of resistance. It will make the conquest more complete." The alien fleet continued its advance, leaving destroyed space stations and abandoned colonies in its wake. Every few hours, another human outpost would simply vanish, erased by the dissolution rays. The message was clear. Resistance was impossible. But Captain Mitchell was discovering something interesting about the Zephyrian attack patterns. They were not just predictable, they were ritualistic. Each attack followed the same sequence: approach, demand surrender, demonstrate power, then destroy. Or move on. It was like they were following a script written by someone who had never faced serious opposition. "Captain," Lieutenant Adams said, "I'm detecting something strange about their energy signatures." "What kind of strange?" "Their shields seem to be designed to deflect energy weapons and quantum attacks. But I'm not seeing any adaptations for kinetic impacts or chemical explosives." Dan frowned. "That doesn't make sense. Every shield system accounts for physical projectiles." "Not these," Carol said, showing him the sensor data. "It's like they've never encountered enemies that use solid ammunition." "Run those scans again," Dan ordered. "And this time, focus on their armor plating." The results were even more interesting. The Zephyrian ships had incredibly advanced armor that could adapt to any energy signature, becoming immune to whatever weapon hit it. But the armor was thin, designed to stop energy beams and plasma bolts, not solid metal traveling at high speed. They fought energy-based civilizations for so long that they've forgotten about kinetic weapons, Dan realized. Their entire defense system is designed around stopping sophisticated attacks. He opened the communication channel to Earth. "This is Captain Mitchell on the Earth's Pride. I have important intelligence about the alien fleet. Their technology has a significant weakness." Back on the alien flagship, Battle Prince Zortek was preparing for the final assault on Earth. His fleet was now only a few light hours away from the human homeworld. Soon, he would add another conquered species to the Empire's collection. "My prince," Commander Veltar announced, "we are detecting the human fleet. They are gathering near the fourth planet in their system." "How many ships?" Zorthik asked. "Approximately 200 vessels. They appear to be taking defensive positions around some kind of space station." "Perfect," the Battle Prince said. "Signal the fleet. We attack in 6 hours. This will be our final demonstration of Zephyrian superiority." As the alien fleet prepared for battle, Zortek looked out at the stars. Soon, this entire system would belong to the Empire. The humans would learn their place in the greater order of the galaxy, and another primitive species will be elevated to serve their betters. Had no idea that the humans were about to show him what primitive technology could really do. Deep beneath the Colorado mountains, in a secret facility that most people didn't know existed, Dr. Amy Foster stood in front of the strangest collection of military equipment ever assembled. The underground hangar was filled with ships, weapons, and devices that looked like they had been built by someone who had never seen proper technology before. "Ladies and gentlemen," Amy said to the group of military officers gathered around her, "welcome to the real human arsenal. Admiral Jake Morrison, who had just returned from his encounter with the Zephyrians, stared at the bizarre collection of equipment. Dr. Foster, this looks like a junkyard. That's exactly what it's supposed to look like, Amy replied with a smile. For the past 15 years, we've been developing what we call chaos warfare technology. Everything you see here is designed to be unpredictable, unreliable, and completely insane. She led them to the first exhibit, a ship that looked like it. Had been built from spare parts. The hull was covered in patches, extra armor plates were welded on at random angles, and the engines looked like they belonged on 6 different types of spacecraft. This is the Chaos Fighter prototype, Amy explained. Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez has been test piloting it for 2 years. Sam, tell them about your ship. Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez stepped forward. He was a young pilot with grease stains on his uniform and a slightly crazy look in his eyes. Well, sir, the best way to describe it is that it's designed to break down in useful ways. What does that mean? Admiral Morrison asked. Normal ships are built to work perfectly until they're completely destroyed, Sam explained. But this ship is built to keep working even when it's falling apart. When the main engine gets hit, it starts spinning randomly, which makes us impossible to target. When the weapons system gets damaged, it starts firing in all directions, which turns us into a flying minefield. Amy activated a holographic display showing the ship in action. During our tests, Sam's ship was hit by simulated enemy fire 17 times. Instead of being destroyed, it became more dangerous with each hit. By the end of the battle, it was spinning, firing randomly, and leaving a trail of explosive debris. The enemy AI couldn't predict where it would go or what it would do next. That's insane, Admiral Morrison said. Exactly, Amy replied. Insanity is our greatest weapon. Let me show you something else. She led them to a wall covered with weapons that looked like they had been designed by someone who had never seen a proper gun. There were launchers that fired different types of ammunition at random, energy weapons that changed frequency every few seconds, and projectile weapons that seemed to be held together with tape and hope. These are chaos weapons, Amy explained. They're designed to be completely unpredictable. This launcher fires kinetic slugs, explosive rounds, electromagnetic pulses, and chemical weapons in random sequence. The enemy can't adapt their defenses because they never know what's coming next. Colonel Steve Parker picked up one of the weapons. Dr. Foster, this looks like it was built by a drunk engineer. Actually, it was built by a very sober engineer who was pretending to be drunk, Amy corrected. The difference is important. This weapon is carefully designed to be chaotic. Every random element is precisely calculated to maximize unpredictability. She activated another display showing weapon test results. In our simulations, these chaos weapons perform 30% better against advanced AI systems than conventional weapons. The more sophisticated the enemy, the more confused they became. Admiral Morrison looked skeptical. How do you aim weapons that fire randomly? You don't, Amy said simply. You point them in the general direction of the enemy and let chaos do the rest. The weapon systems are designed to be most effective when they're not being carefully controlled. She led them to the next exhibit, which looked like a pile of broken electronics. This is our chaos AI system. Instead of trying to think logically, it's designed to think like a human having a bad day. Lieutenant Carol Adams, who worked with the AI team, stepped forward. Traditional AI systems try to find the most efficient solution to every problem. Our chaos AI system tries to find the most confusing solution. It makes decisions based on random factors, contradictory logic, and emotional responses. How is that useful? Admiral Morrison asked. Because it's impossible to predict, Carol explained. Enemy AI systems analyze our behavior and try to counter our tactics. But if our tactics don't make sense, they can't be countered. Our Chaos AI might decide to attack the strongest enemy ship first, or it might ignore all the big ships and focus on the smallest one. The enemy never knows what we're going to do because we don't know what we're going to do. Amy walked over to a ship that looked like it had been assembled from random parts. This is the Silent Thunder, Captain Tony Blake's stealth ship. Tony showed him how primitive technology can be invisible. Captain Tony Blake climbed into the ship's cockpit. The interior looked like something from a museum with mechanical dials, analog computers, and manual controls. This ship used what we call dumb stealth technology. Instead of sophisticated cloaking systems, we use primitive technology that's so simple it doesn't register on advanced sensors. He started the engines, which made a loud rumbling sound like an old truck. The engines are chemical rockets. The computer is mechanical. The hull is made of steel and aluminum. To quantum sensors, we look like space junk. You're invisible because you're primitive? Admiral Morrison asked. Right, Tony replied. Advanced sensors are designed to detect energy signatures, quantum fields, and sophisticated materials. This ship doesn't use any of that. To their sensors, we're just a piece of floating metal. Amy led them to the final exhibit, which was the strangest thing yet. It looked like a collection of broken machines, disconnected wires, and random electronic components scattered across several tables. This is our secret weapon, Amy announced. We call it the Chaos Field Generator. What does it do? Admiral Morrison asked. It creates a zone of technological chaos, Amy explained. Any sophisticated system that enters the field starts behaving randomly. Quantum computers begin making calculation errors. Energy weapons start firing at random targets. Even artificial intelligence systems start thinking in circles. She activated a small version of the device. Immediately, all the electronic equipment in the nearby area began behaving strangely. Lights flickered, computers displayed random information, and even the holographic projectors started showing nonsense images. The field disrupts the quantum coherence that advanced technology depends on, Amy continued. It doesn't destroy enemy systems, it just makes them act crazy. The more advanced the technology, the more chaotic it becomes. Admiral Morrison stared at the device. This could level the playing field against the Zephyrians. More than that, Amy said. It could give us a real advantage. Their technology is so advanced that it's completely dependent on quantum coherence and logical processing. In a chaos field, their ships will become flying disasters. She turned to address the entire group. The Zephyrians have been conquering advanced civilizations for centuries. They know how to fight energy weapons, quantum shields, and sophisticated AI systems. But they've never faced an enemy that uses deliberately primitive and chaotic technology. So our plan is to confuse them to death? Admiral Morrison asked. Our plan is to be so unpredictable that they can't adapt, Amy corrected. While there, trying to figure out why our ships are firing randomly and flying in circles, we'll be using that confusion to destroy their fleet. She activated a final display showing the complete chaos warfare strategy. We have 12 chaos fighters ready for deployment. Each one is equipped with random weapons, unpredictable AI, and the ability to become more dangerous as it takes damage. We have the Silent Thunder for reconnaissance and surprise attacks. And we have portable chaos field generators that we can deploy throughout the battle zone. How do we coordinate an attack if everything is random? Colonel Parker asked. We don't coordinate, Amy replied. We let chaos coordinate for us. Each ship will act independently, following its own random logic. The enemy won't be able to predict our movements because we won't be able to predict our movements. Admiral Morrison looked around at the bizarre collection of equipment. Dr. Foster, this is either the most brilliant military strategy in human history or the most insane. Admiral, Amy said with a grin, in chaos warfare, there's no difference between brilliant and insane. That's what makes it work. As the group prepared to leave, Amy felt a mixture of excitement and terror. Tomorrow, they would find out if deliberately broken technology could defeat the most advanced fleet in the galaxy. She had spent 15 years developing these systems, but she had never imagined they would be tested against an enemy this powerful. But she was confident in one thing. The Zephyrians were expecting humanity to fight like a logical, predictable species. Instead, they were about to face the most chaotic and unpredictable military force ever assembled. The aliens were about to learn that sometimes the best strategy was to have no strategy at all. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, the USS Defiance, watching the massive Titan defense platform through the view screen. The platform was humanity's largest military installation, a giant ring of metal and weapons that orbited between Earth and Mars. It looked impressive and powerful, exactly the kind of place where a desperate species would make their final stand. That was exactly what the aliens were supposed to think. "Admiral," said Commander Sarah North. From her position at the tactical station, all ships are in position. "The fleet is ready." Jake looked at the display showing the human fleet arranged around the Titan platform. 200 ships hung in space in what appeared to be a classic defensive formation. Destroyers and cruisers formed protective screens around the larger battleships, while fighters patrolled the outer edges of the formation. It was textbook military strategy, the kind of battle plan that any advanced species would recognize immediately. "Remember," Jake said to his bridge crew, "we need to look desperate but determined. The Zephyrians expect us to fight like heroes, making a last stand. Let's give them exactly what they expect to see." Several light hours away, Battle Prince Zorthik studied the human fleet through his ship's advanced sensors. The formation was exactly what he had predicted. The primitive mammals were following ancient military doctrine, arranging their ships in defensive patterns that had been obsolete for thousands of years. "Commander Veltar," he said to his second-in-command, "analyze the human defensive positions." "Yes, my prince," Veltar replied, manipulating the holographic display. They had positioned their largest ships at the center of the formation, with smaller vessels providing screening. The platform appears to be their primary defensive strong point. "How quaint," Zorthik said with amusement. "They're fighting like their ancestors did centuries ago. Static defenses, predictable formations, no imagination at all." "Shall we begin the attack, my prince?" "Not yet," Zorthik replied. "Let them see our full fleet first. I want them to understand the futility of their position before we destroy them." Meanwhile, Major Alex Turner was floating in the darkness of space, completely invisible to both human and alien sensors. He was wearing a specialized stealth suit and using a tiny maneuvering pack to position himself near one of thousands of objects that littered the space around the Titan platform. To any observer, the objects looked like space junk. Broken satellites, abandoned cargo containers, damaged ship hulls, and chunks of metal debris floated throughout the battle zone. The area around the platform was known for having a lot of space debris, and nobody paid much attention to a few more pieces of floating scrap, but Major Turner knew better. Every piece of junk in the area was actually a carefully disguised weapon system. Kinetic impactors, chemical explosive mines, electromagnetic pulse generators, and dozens of other deadly devices had been positioned throughout the battle zone over the past 12 hours. They all looked like harmless debris, and they were all completely inactive, showing no energy signatures that might alert enemy sensors. "Control, this is Turner," he whispered into his helmet radio. "Package 7 is in position. All systems are dark and ready." "Acknowledged, Turner," came the reply from Admiral Morrison's ship. "Return to base. The alien fleet is approaching." Turner fired his maneuvering pack and began a slow journey back to the human fleet. Around him, the darkness of space hid. Thousands of weapons that the Zephyrians would never see coming. Captain Tony Blake sat in the cockpit of the Silent Thunder, his ship hidden among the debris field. The stealth vessel looked like just another piece of space junk. It's primitive. Steel hull and chemical engines invisible to the aliens' quantum sensors. Through his mechanical periscope, he watched the Zephyrian fleet approach. 500 alien ships moved through space with beautiful, deadly grace. Their crystalline hulls glowed with internal light, and their perfect formations spoke of centuries of military precision. They were magnificent and terrifying, the most advanced war fleet in the galaxy. "Silent thunder to control," Tony whispered into his radio. "I have visual contact with the alien fleet. They're maintaining standard battle formation, just like our intelligence predicted." "Copy that, Silent Thunder," Admiral Morrison replied. "Stay hidden until the signal." Tony watched as the Zephyrian fleet moved closer to the human defensive positions. The aliens were being careful, scanning the area thoroughly before committing to an attack. But their scans were looking for energy signatures, quantum fields, and sophisticated technology. They completely missed the primitive chemical rockets, mechanical computers, and simple steel weapons that surrounded them. On the Titan platform, Dr. Amy Foster was making final preparations for the chaos field generators. The devices were hidden throughout the platform structure, disguised as normal equipment. When activated, they would create zones of technological chaos that would disrupt any sophisticated system in the area. "Dr. Foster," said Lieutenant Carol Adams, "all chaos generators are ready for activation. The field will cover the entire battle zone when we turn them on." "Excellent," Amy replied. "Remember, once we activate the field, our own sophisticated systems will be affected too. Make sure all essential equipment is running on backup mechanical systems." "Already done," Carol confirmed. "The platform is ready to fight the old-fashioned way." Amy looked out through the platform's observation windows at the approaching alien fleet. Soon, those beautiful ships would enter her chaos field, and their advanced technology would become their greatest weakness. Back on the human flagship, Admiral Morrison was putting on a show for the aliens. He opened a communication channel that he knew the Zephyrians would intercept. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison," he said in a voice that sounded determined but desperate. "The alien fleet is approaching. We will make our stand here at the Titan platform. Earth is counting on us. We will not surrender, and we will not retreat. Prepare for battle." The bridge crew played their parts perfectly, looking nervous but resolved. They were following a script that Dr. Foster had written, designed to make the humans look like brave but doomed offenders, following predictable military doctrine. "Battle Prince." Zorthik intercepted the human communication and smiled. "Perfect," he said to Commander Veltar. "They're going to fight to the death like primitive warriors. This will be over quickly. Shall we demand their surrender first, my prince?" "No," Zorthik replied. "Let them have their moment of glory. Signal the fleet. We attack in standard formation. Dreadnoughts in the center, cruisers on the flanks, fighters screening the advance. Show these mammals how a real military force conducts warfare." The Zephyrian fleet began to move into attack formation. It was a beautiful sight, 500 ships moving with perfect coordination like dancers in a deadly ballet. Each ship knew its role, and each captain followed the battle doctrine that had conquered 200 star systems. Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez sat in his Chaos Fighter, watching the alien fleet approach. His ship looked like it was barely holding together, with mismatched armor plates and weapons that seemed to be mounted at random angles. But Sam knew that every seemingly random element had been carefully designed to create maximum chaos. "All Chaos Fighters, this is Rodriguez," he said into his radio. "Remember, once the party starts, we don't follow any plan. Let your ships do what they want to do. Trust the chaos." "Copy that, Rodriguez," came the replies from 11 other pilots, ready to cause some beautiful confusion. Dr. Foster activated the chaos field generators with a simple mechanical switch. Immediately, invisible waves of quantum disruption began spreading throughout the battle zone. The field was undetectable to the Zephyrians, but it would affect any sophisticated technology that entered the area. Admiral Morrison opened a final communication to his fleet. "All ships, the enemy is in range. Remember, we're fighting for humanity's survival. Make every shot count. Attack Pattern Delta. Engage. The enemy. The human fleet began to move forward in what appeared to be a standard attack formation. To the Zephyrians, it looked like exactly the kind of brave but hopeless charge they had seen from dozens of primitive species. Battle Prince. Zorthik watched the human ships advance and felt a moment of almost sympathetic respect. These creatures were primitives, but they had courage. They were about to be destroyed, but they were facing their fate with dignity. All ships, he commanded, engaged the human fleet. Standard battle doctrine showed him the power of advanced civilization. The Zephyrian fleet moved forward to meet the human attack. Their weapons began charging, their shields activated, and their quantum computers started calculating targeting solutions. Everything was proceeding according to standard military procedure. None of them realized that they were flying into the most chaotic trap in military history. As the two fleets approached each other, Major Turner's hidden weapons came online. The silent thunder powered up its primitive engines. The Chaos Fighters prepared to begin their unpredictable dance of destruction. And throughout the battle zone, thousands of pieces of space junk waited for their moment to reveal their true nature. The Zephyrians were about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemy was the one that refused to fight by the rules.